The Shadow War. Has Israel found Iran's hidden uranium? In the vast expanse of the Middle East, where desert sands meet the pulse of ancient cities, a silent war has raged for years. The combatants, Israel and Iran, are locked in a game of shadows, where intelligence, deception, and the ever-looming specter of nuclear weapons dictate every move. The stakes are impossibly high. Israel's very survival hangs in the balance, while Iran inches ever closer to claiming a nuclear capability that would shift the entire balance of power in the region. The world has grown accustomed to this tension, but now a new chapter in this long-standing feud may be emerging. One filled with whispers, clandestine operations, and a revelation that could turn a simmering Cold War into an inferno. Some say that Israel, through its unparalleled intelligence work, may have found Iran's hidden uranium enrichment sites, the places where the Islamic Republic might be hiding the key to developing nuclear weapons. If true, the discovery could ignite a conflict the likes of which the region has never seen. The story of Israel and Iran's nuclear rivalry traces its roots back several decades. Iran's nuclear ambitions officially began in the 1950s under the Shah, but it wasn't until the Islamic Revolution of 1979 that the world truly began to fear where the program might lead. For Israel, a small country surrounded by enemies and continuously facing existential threats, the idea of a nuclear-armed Iran was nothing short of a nightmare. Iran's leadership has been vocal about its animosity towards the Jewish state, and the possibility of Tehran gaining a nuclear weapon has haunted Israeli policymakers for years. This isn't just about rhetoric. For Israel, the threat is palpable and real. Iran's supreme leader and other top officials have called for Israel's destruction, and while such threats might be dismissed as hyperbole by some, Israel cannot afford to take chances. In Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, the motto has always been clear: never again. It's a phrase that echoes through the corridors of the Mossad, Israel's elite intelligence agency, which has long been tasked with ensuring that Iran's nuclear program never reaches fruition. Over the years, Mossad has become a legend in its own right. Known for pulling off daring missions that seem to defy the odds, the agency has been at the forefront of Israel's efforts to sabotage Iran's nuclear ambitions. In 2018, the world watched in awe as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu revealed a treasure trove of documents seized by Mossad operatives from a secret warehouse in Tehran. The documents detailing Iran's nuclear activities provide concrete evidence that Iran has been lying about its nuclear program's intentions. It was a jaw-dropping moment, but one that only confirmed what Israel had long suspected. Iran was playing a dangerous game, and the world wasn't paying close enough attention. Since then, the nuclear chess match has only intensified. Iran, under pressure from international sanctions, initially agreed to the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, JCPOA, in 2015, a deal that was supposed to curb its nuclear ambitions in exchange for economic relief. But in the years that followed, the JCPOA unraveled. The U.S. withdrew from the agreement under the Trump administration, and Iran resumed enriching uranium at higher levels, all while restricting international inspectors from assessing key sites. For Israel, this was the breaking point. As Iran's centrifuges spun faster and faster, enriching uranium closer to weapons-grade levels, Israel's patience ran thin. Mossad, always watching, always probing, stepped up its efforts. Iranian nuclear scientists were mysteriously killed, often in broad daylight. Cyber attacks disrupted the country's nuclear facilities, and behind the scenes, intelligence agents scoured Iran for any sign of hidden enrichment sites, places where Tehran might be secretly building the bomb it had so long denied pursuing. It is in this context that the latest whispers have emerged. According to unnamed sources within Israeli intelligence, Mossad may have recently uncovered new uranium enrichment facilities, hidden deep within Iran's mountainous terrain or buried beneath unassuming industrial complexes. These facilities, if they exist, could hold the key to Iran's nuclear ambitions, a place where uranium is enriched in violation of international agreements. all in a bid to develop a nuclear weapon. The possibility of such a discovery sends shockwaves through the region. For Israel, the existence of hidden uranium sites would represent a red line, one that might force the government to act. Israel's history of preemptive strikes under nuclear facilities is well documented. In 1981, Israeli fighter jets bombed Iraq's Osirak reactor, effectively destroying Saddam Hussein's nuclear ambitions. A similar strike occurred in 2007 when Israel destroyed a suspected nuclear reactor in Syria. But Iran is a different beast entirely. Its nuclear program is far more advanced, widely dispersed, and deeply fortified. Any military strike on Iranian facilities would carry enormous risks, not only in terms of success, but also in terms of the regional fallout. The stakes are almost too high to fathom. If Israel were to strike Iran's nuclear sites, it could trigger a full-scale war, one that might draw in the entire Middle East. Iran has spent years building up a vast network of proxy forces, from Hezbollah in Lebanon to militias in Iraq and Syria. These groups, well armed and well funded, would almost certainly retaliate against Israel, launching missiles at cities, military bases, and critical infrastructure. The conflict could spiral out of control, dragging in regional and global powers in a bloody, protracted war. Yet for Israel, the risk may be worth it. The thought of a nuclear-armed Iran is simply unacceptable. Israel's leaders have always maintained that they cannot afford to rely solely on diplomacy or international agreements to stop Iran's nuclear ambitions. The world, after all, has a short memory, and Israel knows that it must be the ultimate guardian of its own security. But what if the intelligence is wrong? Israel's intelligence services are renowned for their accuracy, but they're not infallible. What if the uranium sites are not as critical as they seem? What if Israel's fears are based on faulty information? The consequences of a miscalculation would be catastrophic. A preemptive strike based on flawed intelligence could lead to unnecessary loss of life and even greater instability in an already volatile region. The international community, which has long been divided on how to handle Iran, might turn against Israel, accusing it of acting recklessly and further destabilizing the Middle East. The story of Israel and Iran's nuclear rivalry has always been one of high stakes and high drama. But now, as the possibility of Israel uncovering Iran's hidden uranium comes to light, the tension reaches a fever pitch. It's a classic spy story, with all the elements of intrigue, secret intelligence operations, hidden facilities, and the ever-present threat of war. But unlike a fictional thriller, this story has real-world consequences. Consequences that could shape the future of the Middle East for generations to come. As the clock ticks, Israel faces an impossible decision. Do they trust their intelligence and act preemptively to neutralize a potential nuclear threat, or do they hold back, waiting for more evidence, knowing that every day that passes brings Iran closer to developing a nuclear weapon? It's a decision that weighs heavily on the shoulders of Israel's leaders, one that could determine the fate of the entire region. Meanwhile, in Iran, the government continues to deny that it is pursuing nuclear weapons. Tehran insists that its nuclear program is for peaceful purposes, intended to generate electricity and medical isotopes. But the international community remains skeptical, especially given Iran's track record of obstruction and deception. The IAEA has repeatedly expressed concerns about Iran's lack of transparency, and Western powers have imposed sanctions in an attempt to curb the country's nuclear activities. Yet despite these efforts, Iran has continued to push the boundaries, enriching uranium at levels that far exceed what is necessary for civilian purposes. In the coming weeks and months, the world will be watching closely. If Israel has indeed uncovered hidden uranium sites in Iran, the consequences could be profound. A military strike, while fraught with danger, might be seen as the only way to prevent Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon. But the cost of such an action would be immense, both in terms of human lives and regional stability. The story of Israel and Iran is far from over. In fact, it may just be beginning. The next chapter could be one of diplomacy, war, or something in between. But whatever happens, one thing is certain. The shadow war between these two nations will continue, with the fate of the Middle East hanging in the balance. In the end, this tale is more than just two countries. It's about the fragility of peace in a region where history is written in blood, and the future is uncertain. Israel may have found where Iran is hiding its uranium, but what happens next is a story that's still being written, one that could shape the course of history for years to come. If you like this video and want to stay updated on the latest developments in the Middle East, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Make sure to hit the notification bell so you never miss out on our in-depth analysis and breaking news updates. Let us know in the comments what you think about the situation between Israel and Iran. Do you think a strike is inevitable, or can diplomacy still win the day? Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.